Wow, welcome back to another episode of American Flyer. This is Iron Railroad. Today we're going to talk about not trains, but we're going to talk about the restoration and the repair of one of the accessories that was common back in the late 1940s and early 1950s. So what we have today is an accessory called a log loader. And there's a history behind these log loaders. Back in the early 1900s, in the Pacific Northwest and the West Coast, with a lot of trees and timber, logging was a big industry, which it still is to an extent. And to get the logs onto the railways, they need certain superstructures to pick up these heavy logs and then place it onto the platform of the flat cars or the logging cars on the railroad. So what we have today is a replica of a typical log loader. This was made by the A.C. Gilbert Company back in the 1946, 47, thereabouts, 1950. And so, needless to say, it's over 70 years old. This is a typical log loader. This is just a typical log loader. And this is completely restored by me. But I have another one in the shop on my workbench that was sent to me by a person out from the Midwest. He sent me actually two things, and one of them was the log loader, and it was really in deplorable shape. He says, "Can you fix it?" I looked at it. He sent me a picture. I said, "Well, it's questionable," but he sent it to me anyways. So that's what we're going to be working on today, and as you will see later, it's actually a very easy do-it-yourself project. You could do it in one day, basically. Not hard, and only because of the way the structure was made, how this piece of machinery accessory was made. And it's very durable, but I will go more into details. Just follow me and stay tuned. Okay, we're back. This is actually a very easy do-it-yourself project, as I've said before. And there are just some basic parts that you will have to look at. There's the motor, there's the contact points, there's the remote control button, the wires, and basically the entire structure, see if it's intact. There's also the solenoid that under the base, and we'll go over each one of these points, and I will show you what was wrong with it and how it was fixed and how you could prevent it. So here we go. This was very dirty and very decrepit when I received it. I cleaned it up so you can see the parts. I will first introduce you to the motor portion. This is the housing. This is the upper platform. This is the control for the log carriage, which is basically this thing that carries the log up and down. The track, this is the track. And the bottom part here, all the way in the bottom, is the base. And under the base, you have the lift cam to lift the logs up. And connected to the lift cam, you have the solenoid. And then you have all the wires that connects to everything else. So I will go over each one of these. Easy fix. You could do it. Not hard at all. Now this motor was not working. So when I plugged in the power just to test the motor, it didn't move. I heard a little humming sound. I said, wow, gee, so the motor's not bad. And in fact, these motors never usually go bad, and I'll tell you why. In most of the motors that we see, it has brushes. There's a field, there's an armature, and then you have brushes. The brushes wear out, or the fields break, and, well, they move quite a bit, and it's a problem. It has to be fixed. This does not have a brush. It's a brushless motor. Basically, it's an induction motor, pretty much like the motors you have in the refrigerators. Now, how often does a refrigerator motor go bad? When a refrigerator goes bad, usually you lose coolant or there's a break in the wire or something like that, but the motor itself really is not a problem. It's an induction motor. They last forever and ever. Now, the reason why this one wasn't working is because if you see this gearbox in here, well, back in the early days, what they used to grease up the gearbox was not any of the synthetic stuff that we have today. In fact, they didn't have any synthetic grease. Well, what they used was petrolatum. Petrolatum is basically the pharmaceutical term for Vaseline. And Vaseline, when it's fresh, it works well. But over the years, 70 years ago, and then 70, it's been in here 70 years, is kicked up hard like a brick, like concrete. And of course, the motor's not going to be able to turn the gears because of that. So that had to be chipped out, cleaned out, and I did clean it out. And I soaked it in with some WD-40 overnight, cleaned that out, and very carefully with a dental pick, I picked out some of the other, stuff that's in there. And it wasn't that bad. It's actually, you could take this apart. There's a screw here. You could take all the gears out. I didn't want to do that because I think I could do a reasonably 99% cleanup job without taking this apart, which I did. So that works. So this is fine. The wires looks like it was intact. So much for the motor and the housing. The housing, well, these two parts, they bend easily, and that's just typical of the tin plate metals that they use for the housing. The windows I replaced. It was all in there. I just re-glued it, so the windows are fine. These are the windows. The wires going down all the way to the bottom. Well, the wires were cut. For whatever reason, the person that had these, the control button and the main wires, they were cut. So what I did was, and I'll show you what I did. This piece of wire coming from the upper platform, going down the girder support and down into the bottom of the girder support, these wires were cut. What I basically did was resolder each of the color-coded wires and then shrink tube it. And if you notice, this is the original AC Gilbert 4-color wire, the rainbow wire. The part number is American Fly part number 24. And that's still available as reproduction these days. So if you need more wires, it's available. You could buy it. And needless to say, the whole wire was not connected. So this piece was cut. The remote wire was cut. I said, oh my gosh, why do they keep cutting wires like this? Well, anyways, they cut the wires. But fortunately, everything was color-coded. And you could see that the red, the yellow, the green. One of the yellows goes to the 15 volt, and the black wire. I will show you. Everything's labeled. You have the green, the yellow, the red, and the separate black wire, which I separated a little bit. This actually goes to the base on the transformer. The yellow wire, this one separate yellow wire is a little bit different from the thicker yellow wire. This is the thinner one. This goes to the 15 volt terminal base, 15 volt terminal on the transformer. So what I did also for the future, if the person out in the Midwest decides to extend these wires, I could have just solder it, shrink tube it, and it would be one piece. But if he decided he needed extra length, he would have to go back and cut the wires and resolder. And I said, that's a lot of trouble. So what I did was I attached some male and female terminal spades to each of these color-coded wires. This way you attach this to the remote, the control button, and you could disconnect it just by pulling it out. And if he wants to extend it, you could get additional rainbow wires and add additional terminal space, female and male, and just replug everything on each end. And there you have it. So that's just a little extra thing that I did so that he has the versatility of extending the wires without cutting and resoldering and shrink tubing. So I thought that would be a good idea for him. And this is what it looks like once it's all connected. Simple. You can pull it apart, put it back together, and no hassle, no fuss, no fuss. So let's test out the motor itself. It should turn this wheel on top and move the carriage. Just a test. Oh, that's the cam actually. Okay, we press the red button. It should move the carriage. And the green button lifts the log cam. I'm going to give you a demonstration how this actually works. What it does is that the lift cam will lift the log up onto the carriage, onto the top of the carriage. Let me show you. This is the log. It will lift the log up until the carriage, it will secure it in place, and the carriage will bring it forward to the forefront and drop it onto, I don't have the car, but it will drop it onto a car here. So I will demonstrate the operation, and then I will explain more about the electrical contacts, how under the main top platform. So here we go. I'm going to lift the log up. Look at that. And now I'm going to bring it forward. All right, the next one's in place. Press the green button. Look at that. Secures it. Now I'm going to bring that to the forefront. Okay, let's bring the log up. Okay, that secures it in place, and it's going to bring it to the forefront now. And then the second one. Okay, let's look at this from a slightly different angle. Okay, a slightly different angle. Watch this. And then the next one. Now, how cool is that? There's two more pieces of this structure I want to point out to you. There is electrical contact under. See this wheel here? This wheel right here, which is hooked up to a string, to a hook, and of course, it's tied at one end. It's tied at one end here. And those are the 2 points. And the hook actually has a pulley at one end. So the electrical contact is actually under the platform. It's hard to see, but I'm going to try and show it to you. Let's see if I could do this. If you can see the light, that is the electrical contact. That's a little bit rusty. What I did was I used some electronic liquid cleaner to clean it up. Actually, you can see that right there. see if I get a better view. Okay, I think I got a little bit better view here with a light. This is the electrical contact right here. It's a long strip and it's brass, and usually it's not a problem. As long as these wires are still connected to it, it's not a problem. So that really breaks, unless someone actually yank it out for some reason. And this wire goes all the way down the girder structure, down this girder structure right here, and then into the control button. So that's the main contact point for the motor, between the motor and the operating of the mechanism and the control button. The last piece of this part of this structure I wanted to show you is the solenoid. Again, there's no computerization parts for all this back in the early 50s, late 40s. All mechanical and all electricity, and this is the solenoid. Power gives the solenoid, operates this rod, and when it pushes the rod, it pushes the mechanism. This is the lift cam that you saw up lifting the log up. So when this solenoid is activated, it draws this rod into the solenoid, and it's attached to the lift cam, which actually lifts the cam up. See, watch this. So when I push the rod in, the solenoid is operated, it lifts the cam. And that's how it works. This is the bottom. And here's the original patent number from A.C. Gilbert. And it looks like it was 1949 this was made in. If you'll see this, 1949. I can't make out the month and the date. Usually they have a month and a date, and this is the actual patent number. Or original. Pretty ingenious for the days, back when they had no electronics, really. No computerization electronics. Ingenious. So basically, what you need is just some shrink tube, some of the terminal spades, and I have here, which I'm going to replace later, is the gearbox cover and the 2 screws that goes on top of the gearbox. So, and the 2 logs. There's actually more logs, but this is what I have. And the operation would be a lot smoother, except that I was a little constrained with space here, so it was kind of a little bit awkward, but you get the gist of how this all works. And I actually have the roof. So there you have it. Number 751 log loader, totally operational. Didn't have to address the cosmetics in terms of the paint, because that's in very good shape after it was cleaned up. But sometimes you need to do restoration paint, and that's a whole nother subject I will get into at some later date. I could do that too. So here you are. Do it yourself. Have fun. You get a very inexpensive beat up one and make it look like brand new, and add it on to your layout. So